Hi, and welcome back to the Decision Sandbox. This is Matt Franklin, and today I'm going to talk about a really good cash flow model, a really good way of organizing things, and kind of just a high level overview of it without going into too much detail. But this was a class. From a class, I took a series of short courses at Stanford, and this was from the modeling class. It's not mine, so I can't share the file itself, but I'll definitely do a high-level flyover to see what went on. I've done things differently as my thinking has developed, and my style is a little bit different, but I like a lot about what this. I might, in the future, I added, after taking this class, I took, well, of course it's in the past now. I I might add, I did add dual cash flow, internal rate of return, more aggressive coloring, and so on. But let's jump into the model and talk about how it's organized. So it's got a really nice sort of output area here, output table. It's got the NPV right there. And again, to that, I think I would add maybe an internal rate of return. That's not a great metric, but a lot of old school managers still like to see that. So what I would really recommend is some sort of a profitability index. There are different forms of that, but the discounted profitability index is really useful and maybe more of the gold standard that you might want to have for your modeling. The next spot here is decision table, and while I'm here, I'm going to talk about some of the how it's organized. And this is, I don't know if you've seen it before, heard of it, but it's called outlining or grouping. So hit the plus here, and it expands some rows that were hidden. Kind of nice. Out of there, you can select several different strategies, different decisions. Here's decision 1 or 2 or 5. If you note the NPV, see that up there. 5 has a better NPV. Let me just try that. Much better. So yeah, it's a nice way to select things. The way you get that is you go through your strategy table. In your strategy table, these are all decisions. And these decisions select based on what you've chosen for your strategy, a combination of decisions. So each generation, alliance, line extension, whatever you want to have here, those things these names are selected as you work your way across. So very, very clever design, very handy. Really, I love this style. And of course, if you want to do dual cash flows, you would have two of these tables sort of somewhat working side by side, and you would have a selection for cash flow A, cash flow B, and so on. Anyway, it's nicely organized. Strategy tables there, and then working our way down the organization of the inputs. We've got constants here, and the constants, of course, if it's a constant, the year you started. These are a lot of just, yeah, they're not uncertainties. So you just go with the base here. Financial parameters similar, although in mine I have tested the sensitivity to the inflation rate, discount rate, and so on, tax rate. Because it looks like this is definitely an old spreadsheet because you got 37% as your corporate tax rate, and I think nowadays it's more like 25. But plant life and so on. These are all, at least in the mind of the modeler of this, they were constants, didn't vary. But now we get to the uncertainties, and really nicely laid out here, very well organized with subplots, subgroups here, and you've got a low, a mid, and a high, sort of your base, your low, your base, and your high for a lot of these variables, a lot of these uncertainties. Really makes it nice to work through. Okay, now the next piece of this model I'd like to talk about is the calculations. And what I'd like to highlight about the calculations is it's really nicely organized. You've got sales volumes, prices, revenues, and of course sales volume times price. That's your revenue. You've got cost. You've got to subtract from all that R&D expenses, SG&A, and I think they use SG&A equal 13%. That's your just sort of kind of your general overhead type costs, and then different sections in here. So if you turn on and turn off, and let me just highlight one of the examples. So business has been sold. That's one of the switches on off, and that's a decision that we highlighted earlier in the strategies. but there are lots of, what were there, 5 or 10 decisions, easily talking about different portions of this. And anyway, really nicely organized. You can switch decisions on and off, and each box clearly displays, each row clearly displays what's happening. So let's see, what else we want to talk about? Oh, okay, and so also in when you model, you want to clearly display the units. The MM here is more of an archaic energy industry and financial thing. MM means a million in the oil and energy industry and in a lot of the financial industry. So units, also note the range names. So off to the right here, we'll work our way over, and these things in gray, they're barely visible. Let me just make it visible for a second. In red. Okay, so variable cost of your turbo option, and then let me just show you how these things work. So I'm going to highlight that section, and when I release, variable cost of the turbo. That is a range name that gets used later, and if we want, let's just use one of my favorite so dependencies. It gets used later here. Variable cost, and everything that goes into this gets a range name. So anyway, very generous usage of range names makes the model, it puts it more in plain language. And the other thing I really want to highlight here too, and this was kind of mind-blowing for me, because for me, as you work your way across and you want to ramp something up, ramp it down, whatever, you'll change each cell. But in this model, the philosophy is, and watch this box up here, to keep the same equation, and you're just using range names, so it picks the right one to align with the column. As you work your way across, they are all the same formula. So pick any row on here, almost any row, and you'll have the exact formula in every cell. And that saves you from having something hidden and change and a big surprise. It's just a much faster, more efficient way to do your programming. So that is one of the big things I'd like to highlight. Also, in these parameters, they have curves, and rather than dedicated curves and fancy shapes, because it's really hard to know what the shapes might be, how you respond to an uncertainty with that. So they're set up as parameter-driven ramps. And you don't really know, for the most part, what the shape something's going to be. It's more likely going to be just a straight line up and down, and then you can set that with a parameter. So what's the curve? How high could it go? When does this curve? When does the line start ramping up, ramping down, and so on? So anyway, I think that pretty much covers the background, the caveats. Not mine. I can't share it. Overall, you get a strategy table, beautifully organized inputs, calculations are very disciplined and nice. I might use a little more aggressive use of color in these if I were to model it again. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. That is a nice overview of a really quality model. The next episode, I'm going to cover some handy tricks that are used in this model, and a lot of really clever things are here going on. So yeah, thanks for watching.